morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, and welcome to Global Atheist News. This is our report on the impact that religion has had on humanity over the last 7 days. Dateline 21st of January 2023. This week's headlines. Iran protesters get 15 minutes to defend themselves against the death penalty. A Taliban official says, there are differences between a perfect mind, man, and a flawed mind, women. Gunmen killed a former Afghan MP at her home in Kabul. A Catholic priest was burned alive in Nigeria. Jesus' baptism site, Makeover, aims to attract 1 million Christians in 2030. Over 80,000 Israelis protested against their Supreme Court reform. The Democratic Republic of Congo government blames rebels for the Kasindi church bombing. Suspected jihadists abducted 50 women in Burkina Faso. The Alabama Attorney General wants women who use abortion pills prosecuted. Pastor Stephen Anderson says you shouldn't drink beer because you'll get man boobs. Evangelical White Christian Nationalism admits corruption. The federal court dismisses LGBTQ students' class action discrimination lawsuit. Scientology cult leader David Miscavige has disappeared. 35 black churches are to receive a total of $4 million for preservation work. The UK conversion therapy ban is to include trans people. Church of England bishops refuse to back gay marriage. A Saudi woman was arrested with 2 male friends for posting a dance clip on TikTok. 4 young men have already been executed in connection with the nationwide protests that erupted in Iran 4 months ago, while 18 other people have been sentenced to death. Human rights groups have said they were convicted after grossly unfair sham trials. Mohammed Mehdi Karami, a 22-year-old karate champion, was hanged on the 7th of January, just 65 days after his arrest. Sources told BBC Persian that he had less than 15 minutes to defend himself in court. His story shows how authorities in Iran are using show trials to strike fear into the hearts of the protesters, who are demanding freedom and an end to the clerical regime. A Taliban official said, there are differences between a perfect mind, men, and a flawed mind, women. So all international laws can be broken in the face of God's law. In the 21st century, women in Afghanistan are seen to be worth less than a man. See this video.
السلام لدينا خبر پیغمبر علیه السلام به اجازه نه ورکړي چې ښځې او سړي دي مختلط طواف وکړي. جناب سعادت صاحب چې طبعا حج فرض شي مال ولري ته حج تللی شي ښځه چې مال ولري چې محرم نه ورسره فرض ترې نه ساقط دي فرض عین ترې نه ساقط دي. په جهاد کې اول صف کې د سړي سره نه سي ګرځېدلی سړی اذان کولی شي ولې نړیوال دا نه وایي چې ښځې ته اجازه ورکړي چې اذان وکړي.
A former Afghan MP and her bodyguard were shot dead at her home in the capital, Kabul. Mursul Nabizada, 32, was one of the few female MPs who stayed in Kabul after the Taliban seized power in August 2021. Her brother and a second security guard were wounded in the attack. Former colleagues praised Ms. Nabizadeh as a fearless champion for Afghanistan who turned down a chance to leave the country. A Nigerian priest was burned alive in his home in the country's north. Reverend Isaac Aki was killed in the Pikoro area of Niger State after gunmen failed to break into his house and set it on fire instead. A second priest escaped with a gunshot wound to his shoulder. Nigerian authorities are struggling to stem rising violence in the north and central regions where armed groups target rural communities, killing thousands and abducting people for ransom. The attacks sometimes target religious figures such as clerics. In July last year, Reverend John Mark Cheatham was killed after he was kidnapped in the northwestern Kaduna state. Recently, Jordan announced an ambitious $1 million plan aimed at drawing 1 million Christians to Al-Magtas in 2030 to commemorate what is seen as the 2000th anniversary of Jesus' baptism. It promises a biblical village and the largest Christian pilgrimage and interfaith center in the region, recognizing that the River Jordan and its valley is also loaded with religious importance for Jews and Muslims. Samir Murad, who chairs the non-profit foundation set up by the Jordanian government to oversee the project, insists the integrity of the area will be maintained. It would be foolish and unwise to try and create a touristic destination that's based on commercialism and theme park issues in a site so holy, he says. Let's remember this is the third holiest site in Christianity. This is the site where Jesus got his calling, and so it would be highly inappropriate to corrupt it or violate it in any way. More than 80,000 Israeli protesters have rallied in Tel Aviv against plans by the new right-wing coalition government to overhaul the judiciary. The reforms would make it easier for Parliament to overturn Supreme Court rulings, among other things. Protesters described Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's proposed changes as an attack on democratic rule. It follows the installment of the most religious and hardline government in Israeli history. The Democratic Republic of Congo government has blamed Islamic State group-affiliated rebels for a bomb attack at a Pentecostal church in Kasindi in the east of the country. 17 people were killed and 39 wounded as churchgoers attended Sunday worship. The Congolese military blamed the attack on the Allied Democratic Forces, which the UN mission condemned as a cowardly and despicable attack. Residents in Arbinda, Burkina Faso, said 2 groups of women were taken as they were out gathering leaves and wild fruits because of a severe food shortage. A small number managed to escape and raise the alarm. The abductions happened on Thursday and Friday, but news has only just emerged as much of the area has been blockaded by Islamist militants. The women got together to go and gather leaves and wild fruits in the bush because there's nothing left to eat, one resident told the AFP news agency. On Thursday evening, when they didn't come back, we thought that their carts might have had a problem, but 3 survivors did come back to tell us what happened. Arbinda, in the Sahel region, has been hit hard by the jihadist insurgency. Alabama Attorney General Steve Marshall has become the most prominent Republican official to date to suggest that pregnant women could be prosecuted for taking abortion pills. Marshall's office suggested that pregnant women could be prosecuted under a separate 2006 state law used to punish women for drug consumption during pregnancy. The rise of abortion pills has been especially sore point for many anti-abortion advocates who are frustrated by the fact that the overturning of Roe v. Wade has not succeeded in completely halting all abortions in states where the procedure is banned. Many hardcore anti-abortion advocates are now pressuring state officials nationwide to consider prosecuting women who've already had abortions legally. Pastor Steve Anderson first garnered national attention in the United States in August 2009 when he delivered a sermon entitled "Why I Hate Barack Obama," in which he said he prayed for the death of the then president. "I'm going to prove from my Bible tonight why I should hate Barack Obama and why God wants me to hate Barack Obama, why God hates Barack Obama." In a BBC documentary, an interviewer asked Anderson, "What do you think homosexuals should do then?" Anderson replied, "They should kill themselves. I don't have any advice for homosexuals except to put a bullet through your own head." Last week, Pastor Steve Anderson said, "You shouldn't drink beer because if you do, you'll get a belly, man boobs, and the hops will make you more feminine." See this video.
People who drink a lot of alcohol, they end up getting a beer belly. But not only do they get a beer belly, they get the man boobs. And I'll tell you why they get that. Not only just because of getting overweight, but also because of the fact that beer has in it hops, and there are phytoestrogen mimickers in beer that actually hormonally can, make you more feminine as a man. So the reverse of being so manly because you drink so much alcohol, in fact, drinking beer specifically can actually give you more feminine features to your body and cause you to, like I said.
Dark money has been used to influence the courts. See this video.
I'm Reverend Robert Shank, an ordained evangelical minister and former League missionary for Faith and Action in the nation's capital. Operation Higher Court involved my recruitment of wealthy donors as stealth missionaries who befriended justices that shared our conservative social and religious sensibilities. Our missionaries did not engage liberal members of the court. Throughout this ordeal, I've had to look deeply at what my cohorts and I did at the Supreme Court. I believe we pushed the boundaries of Christian ethics and compromised the High Court's promise to administer equal justice.
There is no legal remedy for LGBTQ students who claim they were discriminated against at their religious universities, an Oregon Federal District Court ruled in a high-profile case. The judge dismissed the class action lawsuit filed on behalf of about 40 students and former students at religious schools nationwide. The case claimed that the department failed to protect LGBTQ+ students at religious schools from discrimination. The lawsuit, perhaps the first of several class action suits against religious universities, is part of a broader reckoning happening in religious higher education over the past 2 years. LGBTQ students have staged walkouts, month-long sit-ins and protests advocating for LGBTQ inclusive policies for university students and staff. And students at Yeshiva University filed a lawsuit of their own against the Orthodox Jewish school for refusing to recognize an LGBTQ student club. Judge Aitken wrote, "Plaintiffs do not plausibly demonstrate that the religious exemption was motivated by any impermissible purpose, let alone that Congress was wholly motivated by such an impermissible purpose." David Miscavige, the leader of Scientology, has disappeared. See this video.
A leader of the Church of Scientology has disappeared after authorities tried to serve him with a child trafficking lawsuit. Farron, you and I have done plenty of stories on this cult of crazies. That's what it is. It's not a church. It's not a religious organization. It is a cult of maniacs. And nevertheless, we give them a tax break. They don't have to pay taxes. Now, this guy that's running the entire organization is on the run. He's hiding out because of this lawsuit that's been brought by a Florida lawyer down in South Florida.
Yeah, and we talked about the lawsuit really just a couple weeks ago. Yeah. You have these children, some as young as 5 and 6 years old. They get pulled into the church with their families, and I don't want to call them church. The Scientologists put them to work scrubbing boats, cleaning hotel rooms, doing all kinds of horrible things for no pay at all, basically using them as child labor. They'll take away any documents they have so that they cannot escape. They're trapping these people. It is human trafficking, just through an organization that most people in this country somehow view as legit.
Nearly 36 historic black religious sites will receive a $4 million infusion of funding to help them with renovations and preservation of their buildings across the country. The National Trust for Historic Preservation's African American Cultural Heritage Action Fund announced on Monday that 35 churches are the recipients of the first round of its Preserving Black Churches grants. A new law to ban all forms of conversion therapy in England and Wales will include practices aimed at transgender people, the government says. The ban will outlaw attempts to change someone's sexuality or gender identity. Mental health groups have warned all types of conversion therapy are unethical and potentially harmful. The government had previously said transgender conversion therapy would not be included in the ban, but new Culture Secretary Michelle Donnellan said in a written statement that the bill would be published shortly and would protect everyone, including those targeted on the basis of their sexuality or being transgender. Church of England bishops have refused to back a change in teaching to allow priests to marry same-sex couples. They met on Tuesday to finalise their recommendations over years of consultation and debate about the Church's position on sexuality. Their proposal will be further debated at the Church's equivalent of a parliament, the General Synod, next month. BBC News spoke to several bishops at the meeting who said the Church's teaching that holy matrimony is only between one man and one woman would not change and would not be put to a vote. But the Church confirmed that prayers of dedication, thanksgiving, or for God's blessing on same-sex couples will be offered following a civil marriage partnership. A Saudi woman was arrested with 2 male friends for posting this dance video filmed in Jeddah on TikTok. They have been accused of violating public decency. See this video.
Nobody make my
This week's Free Thought Hour, the show that follows this news, features Ronald Cram, who returns as our guest because some people expressed the view that we interrupted him too much a couple of weeks ago. We're going to be better behaved. You can join in by texting your comments and questions. It's live and it's free. And don't forget to watch Views on the News, our spin-off show where a panel of opinionated people get a chance to express their views on this very news. The GAN team will be back with our weekly news report next week. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, and set the notifications. This has been Global Atheist News. Thank you for watching.